Okay, first off, welcome to Why Is Your Podcast on a Dead Girl's Phone? Um, I'm really excited to finally talk to you. I've been trying to schedule it for a while, but on my end, I just didn't work out for some reason. But yeah, thanks for
Thank you
coming on.
for thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
I kind of like to start off the podcast with like going backwards in time and then like working up to How to Get Away with
Mhm.
Murder. So I was wondering growing up, who was some of your biggest inspirations, like personal or like that you saw on TV or actor wise? Like,
Yeah, well, I was an actor since I was a little kid. I was
oh,
always telling stories. My mom had me in little like acting classes and stuff, and I grew up in upstate New York. Interestingly enough, nobody looked like me on television, right? The only brown character on television was Apu in The Simpsons, who was
oh,
animated and voiced by a white guy.
eh,
And so there was no one who looked like me on television. It wasn't until like the early 2000s there was sort of like the funny Indian guy, like we see in Big Bang Theory.
oh yeah.
But even that was like a super stereotype performance. So in my memory, it goes to sort of like the Riz Ahmeds and the Dev Patels being in shows very recently to being the
Mhm.
first like brown leads in shows. So growing up for me, it was like Will Smith and Jim Carrey and people like that I was watching, being like, oh, they're really good, or Tom Hanks, Denzel. Those people were the ones that like I was really watching and being like, wow, they're fantastic. And then when I went to acting school, I found a lot of inspiration from like stage actors, great stage actors.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then you went to acting school at the Columbia College, Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, I
How?
went to Columbia College Chicago and I loved it. I learned acting there and I stayed there for 10 years and did theater.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So I did a lot of theater in Chicago and that's how I made my living as a stage actor.
How did you pick, or what made you pick that acting school out of what like drew you to that one? Like,
Well, I grew up in upstate New York, and so a lot of my friends went to New York acting schools. But New York acting schools, in my opinion, at the time, were really focused on musical theater, and I'm not a singer
oh
dancer.
darn it.
So, and with Chicago, the town seemed to be really into like plays and new work and gritty work, and it still is. Like Chicago still is a place where like new plays happen, and I was really interested in new plays. And so that's where I went.
And read something that you were like the senior international admissions officer for. I was wondering if what that like all entails and how that came
So
about.
while I was at the school, I was a tour guide. So by being like a tour guide for the campus, that was like my job to like make money while I was at school. So while I did that, to be a tour guide, to be a good tour guide, you have to know a lot about all the different departments at the school. And it was a huge school. There was like, 20 different majors and all that kind of stuff. So I had to learn about every different department and I got good at it. I became like a really good tour guide. So that when I graduated from the school in 2008, they gave me a job in the admissions office because to be a good admissions officer, you have to just know a lot about the school. But I already knew a lot about the school because I was a tour. So I only had to learn a little bit. And then from there, I ended up working my way up to the senior admissions officer for international. So I ended up traveling all over the world and sort of representing the school in different countries. And the reason why I was so excited about that job is because,
Travel.
for me, yeah, travel, but being a good actor is about like being an intelligent person of the world, right? And so for me, I got to travel to like 60 countries and I did all this great work and it was like over the course of years I was still able to act on stage, but I would take like 6-week trips and go to Asia or Latin America and it was really awesome. So I got to do that job for about
Oof.
5 years.
And traveling for 5 years, just every. Oh my god.
It was so cool. Yeah.
Little jealous, little jealous. What were some of like the challenge? Like, were there any like challenges traveling to all these different places so fast, or like?
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges was honestly that my acting career would have to take a pause every once in a while when I would go on these trips. So I would be doing a play. Like I remember I did this play called The History Boys in Chicago. And there is a movie version of it too, but we were doing the play and the play ran from April to November, but I actually left for 6 weeks in the middle of it and went on a trip and came back. So like an understudy went for 6 weeks and I came back. So that was a challenge. But yeah, as far as the travel itself, it is exhausting. At sometimes it's not as glamorous as it seems. Like it's like
Right.
airplane, hotel, 5 a.m. wake up call, airplane, hotel. And
Time zone.
remember,
Okay.
I'm not just sightseeing. I was like working, you know?
Not vacation at all. Damn. And then I kind of wanted to ask you about some of your other roles that you're credited with. I want to bring up the Lion Guard really quick because
Yeah.
I think voice acting is really interesting, and I was wondering if you could talk about the difference between just using your voice to get
Yeah.
expressions and all that.
So the Lion Guard gig is one of the most fun I've ever had acting in my entire life.
Oh,
Like the days
that's
that
fun.
I went in to record for the Lion Guard were so fun. I would like wake up so excited to go. Um, so the way it works is you're in a booth, and if they for the first time you record it, they don't have a drawing of your character. But if you've already recorded it, like my second, third, fourth episodes, then they already have like the animation of your character to like they've already done it already, and you're in this booth and the directors are on the other side of the booth like through the glass, and it's a pretty big room, and you have room to like kind of do it. So I play a cheetah, um and because I play a cheetah, you know you really gotta kind of like get into it, and
Mm.
and it's so fun. So 90% of communication that humans do day to day is visual. So, for example, like if I say, um, "Hey, don't go in there," I can give you like a "Oh, don't go in there," which lets you know that I'm hiding something, or I could give you like a "Don't go in there," or I can give you a "Don't go in there," which is like
Different
threatening. Like
interpret.
there's
Yeah,
warning, there's threatening. Yeah. So with your voice, because they don't have necessarily the visual, you have to give the artist everything with your voice. So it really has to be "Don't go in there." Like you really have to like kind of go there, and it's so fun to be free to go as far as possible. I think most actors want to go very far. The challenging part is holding it back.
but yeah, like if it's just your voice, like they're not seeing your weird, or if it's like a weird or something you wouldn't normally do, like with another person. Like,
Yeah.
damn, that's cool. I need to
It
look up these episodes.
can really, yeah, they're all over YouTube. My character's name is Azad, Azzad, or Azaad. Um, but yeah, they're all on YouTube. It's really great, really fun. But yeah, with voice acting, you can go super far with your voice and you can really inhabit the character in the room. It's so much fun. It's like play. It's like imagination play that you get paid for.
You would want to do more voice work if it came about. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I do a video game called Cookie Run Kingdom. I think it's a Korean game or maybe a Japanese game. And I do a lot of like dubbing and a lot of voice work for like commercials and audiobooks. Like I've done a lot of audiobook voice work. So yeah, I like that stuff.
And one of the other roles that kind of your most episodes for was the Chi. I was wondering if you had any memorable teaching moments that you've learned from that show doing that.
Yeah. So that show is actually called The Shy,
Oh, the Shy.
which is short for Chicago. And it's a
Oh,
show that's kind of like The Wire. I kind of describe it like The Wire. It kind of takes a different approach to looking at Chicago, the South Side of Chicago particularly. And it's about how people find love and deal with violence, and how they deal with community and how they build community and embrace community in Chicago. It's a cool show. The most interesting thing I've learned from that show is I've had two roles on that show. One role was as an actor. I played Amir on The Shy. But the other thing I do on The Shy is I'm the acting coach on that show.
oh,
So I coach all the actors on season 5, and coming up season 6. We just got renewed today for season 6. So
cool.
um I'll be acting coach for them as well.
Okay, that's really cool. Dang.
Yeah.
And then the Good Place and All Rise were just little here and there, but
The Good
anything
Place and
from
All Rise were quick. Yeah.
yeah. Any memorable stories or anything? The Good
I
Place.
will say about The Good Place. The Good Place was memorable because the cast, the main cast, so like Darcy Carden and Kristen Bell and William Jackson Harper and Ted Danson, they were all so nice to each other and like so kind. Like sometimes when you get on set, I don't know what like a non-actor thinks happens, but normally what happens is this is what's happening. Everyone's just on their phone.
Uh,
And then it break. And then we break and it's like we put our phones down, we do our scene, we do our scene, we do our scene. And yeah, people talk to each other like, hey, what's up? How was your day? Whatever, whatever. But then
yeah.
it's like back to this. Whereas on The Good Place, they were cracking jokes, having fun. It was a really like lively set. Maybe that's just because it's a comedy. So that's like
Yeah. Stay in
the
the.
sort of yeah, yeah.
I think, yeah, especially for that show, I think you would have to stay like a laughable on cloud nine sort of, but kind of like the storylines and stuff going on.
Yeah, it was very fun, very kind, very joyous set.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think I want to bring up How to Get Away with Murder now because I'm really excited to find
Yeah.
out any secrets or anything. Um, I kind of like your audition and joining in season 3 and meeting the cast and stuff for the first time. And like, did you know,
Yeah.
like, what did you know about your role going in? Like,
I can tell you some stuff. Let me see. I mean, the show's not airing anymore, so I don't have to worry about secrets.
sadly.
Um, yeah. So let me tell you this how this happened. So I lived in Chicago at the time, and I had done this amazing play called Disgraced in Chicago. And Disgraced went on to win the Pulitzer Prize for drama in 2013. And the Pulitzer Prize is the biggest prize for drama in the world. So I worked on the original production. And so because of that, after it won the Pulitzer, theaters all over the country wanted to do it. And when you do the original production, your name actually goes in the script on the front page.
Oh, shoot.
And so since my name was there, people were calling me to act in this production all over the country. So I ended up doing it in multiple cities. I did it in Chicago twice. I did it in San Francisco, more specifically Oakland, more specifically Berkeley. I did it in Seattle. I did it in Los Angeles. So I did it all over the country.
Is it weird
And
doing, is it weird doing like the same performance? Like, do you ever get like, or do you always find like little new things to add to the different
well,
lines or,
it was a different cast every time.
oh, so that will,
So that's what makes it keeps it fresh. You know,
okay,
sometimes different people have done it before, people who haven't done it before, so it keeps it fun.
that would, yeah.
Um, but when I did it in Los Angeles, I knew it was going to be probably the last time I was doing it because I was getting too old to play the character I was playing, and I had been doing it for like years and years. And so I was like, it's probably the last time I'm doing it, at least for this role. Like if I do it again, it'll be in 10, 15 years as the older guy. Um, so I was in Los Angeles and I was doing the play, and people that are very involved higher up at How to Get Away with Murder came and saw the play.
Mm.
So that was like Bill D'Elia, who was an executive producer and he was directing episode 1 of season 3 and was also an EP on the show. So he came and saw the show, and some of Shonda's people came and saw the show. Casting director Linda Lowy's people came and saw the show. And so I got this call from my Chicago agent. I didn't even have an LA agent at the time. So I got this call from my Chicago agent, wonderful lady, Marisa Panessa in Chicago, saying that there's like this role on the show called How to Get Away with Murder. And I had heard of How to Get Away with Murder because of Viola Davis,
Period.
but I hadn't seen the show. So I binged season 1 that night. I watched what is 15, I think, episodes in season 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I watched 15 episodes like in like 2 days. And I just like I was like, wow, season 1 is great. You know what I mean? I was like, season 1's like my favorite season, I think. It's like really good.
Yeah, like the perfect
Yeah. Yeah. So I watched season 1, and my character's name was not Simon Drake. My character's name was, I don't know if people know this. I don't know if anyone's ever told you this on the
I don't
podcast, but
think
so what people do with character names, even on that show, like even Matt McGorry's character was not named Asher in the
in the
beginning.
pilot. Yeah, I think I knew. Yeah, some of them in the
Yeah.
pilot.
So
Yeah.
I think it was, if I'm correct, I think Matt's name was Doucheface.
Oh, like original, like instead of
Yeah. So what Yeah, so because the names are important, how they do it based on what ethnicity or race the person who gets it is, you know. Simon Drake could have been anybody, right? Could have been white, could have been black, could have been Filipino, could have been anything. Um, so my character's name was Pompous Face.
Oh.
They knew my character was going to be pompous. So they'll say whatever the character is. They knew Asher was going to be kind of a douche in that episode one. So it was douche
Then
face, like,
okay.
or they'll give you like sweet face or whatever it is. So my character was pompous face. So I remember my first contract that I signed for How to Get a Murder is for the role of pompous face.
Oh.
Um, but then what ends up happening is you have a lot. So once you get, so I audition. Basically, they came and saw me in the play. They call me into audition. I go in the next day for my first LA theatrical audition, and I audition. And I have this great time with Linda Lowy's assistant. He's a wonderful man. Not even assistant, co-casting director at the office, not an assistant. Wonderful guy. We talked about Chicago theater and all the great actors we knew and doing Disgraced and all that kind of stuff. And the next day, I got the role.
Yeah.
And when I got the role the next day, they were like, people are going to call you with more information. So I got a call from Peter Nowak, who was like, hey, congratulations. Let's talk about a name. You are Middle Eastern and Indian. We talked. He goes, do you want a name that represents that? Or do you want a name that's sort of generic that doesn't represent that? They could have found like they could have named me like Shehzad or something, like something that was actually like of the race.
Yeah.
But actually, I didn't want that because I didn't want for me the role to be about my identity. I wanted to kind of like slot into their world, you know? So he was like, cool. And so I got a script a couple days later where his name was Simon. Um,
That's cool
so
that he asked like that they asked,
yeah,
would ask
really
that.
cool that they asked. Really cool that they ask. And it's rare that that happens, but it was really, really awesome that Peter did that. That Pete did that. And then I had a call with Bill D'Elia. And the call with Bill, he was directing the episode and it was the EP, and he was basically like, this is what we're thinking for your character, blah, blah, blah. But I thought I was only going to be in one episode.
Oh, shoot.
So what you see in season 3, episode 1 is like, I thought I was just going to do that. And then I got a call for a second episode, and I thought I was just going to do that. And then I got a call for a third episode. I thought I was just going to do that. And so episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of season 3, those 5 episodes, I thought I was just going to do each one I thought was my last episode. So at the end of each episode, I would say goodbye to everybody. Because by then I was like,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, with Asia and Jack and Matt and Liza and like, me and Liza were having lunch, and me and Alfie Enoch. We were getting lunch all the time in season 3, and Matt McGorry and I were doing some activism work together. And so, I was becoming friends with these people, and at the end of every episode, I'd be like, all right, we'll see you. Like, hope we can still grab lunch, and then I'd be back like 2 days later for the next episode. But the way it works is you only get a 1-episode contract at a time.
Oh, really?
So for the leads, the Keating Five, and Liza, and
Charlie, probably.
Charlie and Nate and Viola, yeah, they have their whole contract for the whole season. But for the rest of us, like, we get it 1 episode at a time. Even in the beginning with Amira Van and Corbin Reed, like those guest stars, I assume it was only a couple episodes or 1 episode at a time until Amira became a series regular and got her contract, right?
The storyline, yeah.
Exactly. So it works like that. And then after 5 episodes, I got like an LA agent and an LA manager, and that's where we started to have a little better negotiation, to understand that I knew I was going to be around a little bit more. And I heard a rumor that they were building Simon's apartment. Because they remember we go into Simon's apartment for
when Annalise yells at you.
Yes. Okay. And so once I heard that they were building my character's apartment, like, I know that they were making a financial investment in the character to build out that whole set. So that's when I knew I was going to be around a little more. And then for season 4, I only knew 5 episodes at a time. So I knew I was going to do the first 5 episodes, and I knew I was going to do the second 5 episodes.
Yeah, because you're pretty involved in season with the
Yeah.
mystery and stuff. Yeah, I was wondering like if when you came on for season three, if you knew like your character would be responsible for like the killer posters of Annalise, or
Mm-mm.
if you were just going to be like the little jabbing the students whenever, or if it was just like that, or that's interesting.
No, I only knew one episode at a time. I didn't know about the killer poster until I read the script and the table read.
Oh, were you
Yeah.
is that what you like wanted more for, like, were you surprised that your character was going to be doing that, or
Yeah, I guess I was always hoping for a redemption, you know? I was always hoping because look, Simon Drake is the asshole on the show.
eh.
But in reality, like if we're thinking about real world stuff, Simon Drake does literally nothing wrong.
And he's like, all his arguments are like about like she favors you guys and you guys don't have to show up to
Exactly.
class. Like, yeah, you're working. Yeah, like
They're
Simon's
murderers.
you're
Like
showing.
exactly the people that we love, the Michaelas and the Laurel Castillos and stuff. Like they're all murderers, and or at least accomplices. And Simon Drake, there's another little thing that they were so smart to do that Pete put in, or maybe Bill put in. I don't know, but whenever you see Simon in the background, he's always like laughing with friends.
With the other.
Yeah. And like whenever you see him in the background, he's always like he's laughing with people, he's like shaking hands, he's like so what I think what they were trying to show subtly was that like it's actually the Keating Five that were the outcasts. Like they're
um
the ones who didn't have other friends. They only had each other. But
oh,
like but like but like Simon was friends with the rest of the class. And of course, because the rest of the class is also pissed that
not
they
getting
show
called.
up they never show up. They're always first chair. You know what I mean? So I always had to justify, like, yeah, I understand that Simon is like the character Twitter hates, but it's also like he didn't do anything wrong. And then they
I,
tried to frame him for a murder.
oh my god.
So I was always hoping for a redemption, and I was always hoping that when he started to like Oliver,
Mm-hmm.
that Oliver would kind of like bring him into the fold, but that didn't end up happening.
Michaela. No, I always see those posts on Twitter about like the other students in Annalise's class, like never getting never getting picked to answer questions, or like
Never.
being in the court like with her. Like it's like, okay,
Yeah.
where's my tuition going? Or,
Exactly. I mean, wouldn't you be so upset? I always tell people because people come up to me on the street all the time. They'd be like, "Oh, I hated your character. I hated your character."
oh
And I was like, "I get that. I get that. I know that's true." But I'm also saying, but if you were in the world of what's the name of the university?
Middleton.
Middleton. If you were in the world of Middleton, you would probably like me more than you would like them. You
Yeah.
would like Simon Drake more than you would like, Michaela. She would probably be horrible to you.
She wouldn't even give you the time. Yeah, like
Yeah.
no.
Now you would love Asia Naomi King,
Very.
but Michaela, totally different. Yeah.
Is there meeting them for the first time? Were there any uh cool stories, or just how they are in person? Like,
I mean the only person I was like intimidated to meet was Viola. But our first interaction was really great.
uh,
Um, the Keating Five, it's tough because I've been an actor for a long time and I already kind of knew how it is, right? So the five of them have been on a journey together. They were kind of like just like in the show, the five actors have been they booked the pilot together, they went to Philadelphia, they did the thing, they had a European trip, they 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 became friends, like really 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 close friends and family, and they dealt with rumors in the media, and they dealt with the loss of Wes,
oh
and they did so much together that when I'm coming in, I didn't imagine that I'd be like, "Hi guys, I'm part of the gang now." You know what I mean? Like it's like, well, who are you? Because you haven't gone through this with us. I'm not saying they were standoffish at all. I'm
yeah,
just saying, like, I was very much like aware of that understanding of like I'm the new guy for a little bit. And there's new guys coming in
same.
all the time. But I will say, I I think I earned their respect as an actor because when we were talking, I had a lot of knowledge of theater and a lot of knowledge of the industry and little tiny things that they would do to help out. I can give you some examples. Things that I'll always remember, like in season 4, episode 8.
Uh-oh.
Um,
The
I
big.
get, yeah, it's a big episode, right? That's the episode where there's all kinds of things happening. But there's a part where Conrad, so Oliver, so I always mix them up. When Oliver comes in and he screams,
Uh-huh.
but then later we don't know what he's screaming at. And
Oh,
then
little rewind.
he does CPR on me. So when you know how like when we get the moment where Conrad screams, but we see it from so many different angles because they use it in multiple episodes before we're leading up to that moment. And it's in episode 508 that we know why he's screaming.
Yeah.
Actually see that I think in episode 2 of that season. Like we see him scream like all the way up. So they have to shoot
Got
it
it.
in multiple different ways. So that means I'm on the ground all day long. And the back of my head started to get like very, very sore because like my back of
Augie.
my head was on the hard ground. Yeah. It was like bruised up. So I remember like Asia was like, "Can we get him like a little pillow or something like that?" Like it was really
Little
sweet,
blood
Asia, to
pillow.
ask for a little pillow for me,
Uh,
like a little thing. I remember once when like there's something called crafty, which is the food where we all eat, and only the regulars get food ordered for them. The rest of us eat at crafty. But I would often be in the trailer with everybody, and they'd have to like skip over me because I was the only like
uh,
non-regular
what?
trailer. So I remember Matt used to order 2 sandwiches and then give me one.
Period.
So Matt would be like, Behzad, what do you want? And I'd be like, oh, I want the chicken sandwich or whatever. And then he would order the chicken sandwich for me, and then he would just give it to me. Like little things like that was really
Uh,
kind. Alfred used to organize Shakespeare nights where the cast would get together and read Shakespeare
uh,
at one of our houses. And Alfred invited me to one of those Shakespeare nights. So
wow.
little things like that was nice. And I went to Jack's birthday and stuff
Uh,
like that. So by doing all that, that's how I like met them. But I will say the the most welcoming, the just the kindest soul, the nicest person was Liza.
uh,
Liza. Liza was so sweet and so kind and always went out of her way to like chat with me or ask me how my day was going or take me to lunch. Alfred as well, Matt as well. So many great people, but
uh,
they went out of their way, and it was really. I always remember that.
yeah, I got to meet Liza and Charlie in LA for the panel they did for the final season, and they came
Yeah.
out afterwards and found me and had to talk to them for like 15 minutes. And yeah, they
Well,
were like the nicest. Yeah.
I mean, people knew who you were. You were like the biggest fan. You were like a super fan. Like people, because the show is big. We would when we do the Twitter nights, like there's a huge screening room, and we would all have our laptops or our phones in, and we would be watching, but like everybody's in their own chair, like
Oh,
tweeting, live thing. And when you were live tweeting me, I would see it, and then like Liza would see it. And then what we do is it would be like, hey, did you see what Niles just tweeted? Or did you see what so and so just tweeted? Now sometimes it was just like the Twitter name. We'd be like, oh, did you see what Love How to Get Away with Murder tweeted? You know what I mean? We would just like see what people tweeted. So yeah, we would chat and do the live tweets.
I didn't know it was like a a big screen. Like that's cool. Shit.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't have to show up to that, but we often did. Like if we were shooting, here's the other thing. Let's say the show was airing at like, remember, we shot the show 4 weeks prior to when it airs.
Yeah.
So if we were shooting like episode 7, let's say, right? That means like episode 3 is probably airing. So while we were shooting, we might take a 1 hour break, go into the screening room, watch it live,
Oh shit.
and like tweet, and then once that show ends, we go back to shooting.
Oh, that's dang. Like
Yeah.
see the finished product real quick and go back to
Yeah,
that's
the finished product of something we saw like of like something we
shot.
shot 4 weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh shit. Keep track of everything.
Yeah.
And then I was wondering if you could like talk about sort of like the moment you trip over the chair and Oliver screaming. Like how like complicated is that to film like that?
Very,
Like the elevator
very,
and the blood and the splatter on the wall and just
very. That scene took 2 days. Just that scene.
Just that little.
starting from when I starting from when I pull the purse out of Laurel's hands, then I pull the gun out, then aim the gun. Remember, if you look at it, if every time you all watching a scene and then you see the camera shift to a different angle, that means it's a whole different setup. And I mean, if the camera, because the camera goes up, which means the camera goes up, that's a whole different setup. Then the camera's in front of me, then the camera's on Laurel, then the camera's on Asia, then the camera's on Matt, then the camera's on Conrad. Like every time we do that, that's a whole different setup. And remember, in between each setup is like 20, 30, 40 minutes while they have to change the lights, change the angles. Now, think about this. The whole room that we're in is glass. It's a
Hmm.
glass lawyer's office. So they have to angle the glass so that you can't see the reflection of the camera and the crew in the glass. Because if the camera's straight onto the glass, you'd see the reflection of the camera in the glass and you would see the whole crew. So they have to angle the glass in a way that you don't. So each setup, they have to move the glass, move the lights, move the camera, get the actor ready. It took a
Oh,
long time. And then we have a stunt person who teaches us how to fall safely and how to use the gun safely. We have a gun safety person to make sure the gun is safe. There's a there's a person making sure Laurel's belly is the same and the women's hair is the same, all that kind of stuff. So it took a long time. It was very complicated, but it was super fun to shoot.
whoever
And then the
decided.
blood splatter, yeah, I had like a wire, like a plastic wire, not like a tube, almost like a little thin tube in the back of my suit, and I had a little thing in my hand, like a little pump in my hand, like a
Oh,
doot doot.
you control
And
that? What?
yeah, so then they would go bang, and then I would smash it and go like this, and the splatter would spray from the back of my suit onto the glass. And then later they put the gun sound in post.
Holy shit. That's great. You don't think of that when you watch it. Like you're just like, oh, they
Uh,
there's a camera over here, and they just or like edit it together, or I don't know. Like you don't think.
yeah, and then with the blood splatter, they with the blood splatter, it's actually plastic. It's like a plastic, like it almost feels like a fruit roll up, like kind of a
Oh,
plastic.
it's like a hard sort. It's like
Yeah,
a puddle sort of shaped hard.
yes,
Oh,
exactly. It's almost, imagine like a puddle shaped long fruit roll up. It's got that feel. So they can sort of like bend it
same taste
and
too. Is it? No.
yeah, exactly. I didn't taste it. But yeah, they put it on you and then they have a middle one, then they have a bigger one, then they have a bigger one. So it looks like the pool is expanding.
I remember when I interviewed Conrad, he was telling me a story about when he's going down in the elevator to get to where the shooting's going to happen. That they changed the set around from the party set to him going
Yeah.
down in the elevator was like all the cameras on him. And then when the elevator opens, it's a completely new floor to Kaplan and Gold. And then that was like blew my mind. Like I had to go back and rewatch the episode.
It's the same exact room. They just make it a party. So the door's closed, the door opens, and they make it a party. That's it.
And then revert, yeah, darkness, like a
Yeah.
different empty floor. Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's so
It's
cool.
wild.
Oh, I gotta look at my notes. When you got called, when you came back for season four, like what was like your reaction for that? And like you said, it was like the five. You knew you were gonna do 5 episodes. Like,
I was driving to Las Vegas and I was on the desert and I was driving and my manager called and he said we got this and I was thrilled. I really wanted to come back. Um, and every time my manager called, I would like break in and out of service because I
oh
was in
no,
the desert. So I was like, what? What? How many episodes? What? And then like an hour later, I would call him and be like, I can hear you again. And then he was like, how many episodes? And then it would break out. So like I remember I
oh,
finally got to Vegas and I was like, what is happening? And then I got the full story.
speed a little bit to get that
Yeah,
service.
exactly. Exactly.
You mentioned like the Kaplan and Gold set, like they had to move the glass and stuff, and like how much of that was like, or what was that like? Like the whole set, like
So the
built like.
Kaplan and Gold set was where the classroom set was. So in season 3, we have the classroom set, the big stadium classroom,
The
right?
climax sort of, yeah.
Yeah. But then we knew we weren't using that classroom anymore, so they got rid of the classroom and they built the Kaplan and Gold set in it. So when I entered for season 4, I was like, "Holy crap! It looked like a whole new place." And like my apartment, where they put my apartment, when they took that down, that's when they then they like move in where the elevator was for Kaplan and Gold. The elevator wing was where
Uh,
my apartment, because like it's one huge sound stage with all these like different sets. It's like a puzzle piece. So if you look at it from above, it just looks like
ooh,
a bunch of puzzle pieces. Yeah.
lordy. And then when like I wanted to mention like with the feud between Michaela and Simon and how all that ended and filming that with Asia and all that. Like, how did you feel about like that being Simon's
I
eh,
was
like
bummed because I wanted to stay on. I wanted to stay on the show. Like I was really bummed, and there was a point where like Viola was like Annalise rather was like, no, we can save him or whatever, and
that's
then
too
Amira Bennett
far?
came in, yeah, and I was bummed. As far as Asia is concerned, Asia was lovely. Asia was lovely, lovely, lovely. But yeah, I was like, Michaela, come on, this is brutal. And when the ice dude came in to get me, it was sad. But the day we shot that, Kobe Bryant actually visited set.
uh,
And so Asia and I and Viola, we were all huge fans of Kobe, so we got to meet Kobe Bryant, and that was really a fun day. So I was really glad I was there for
I
that.
remember the yeah, I think I remember those pictures you guys posted with Daniel Robinson. Actually wanted me to ask you about meeting Kobe, one of the writers, Daniel.
Did you interview Daniel Robinson?
Yeah, he was like my fourth guest, I think. My first
And
writer I've had from.
he had brought up me and Kobe.
No, I was asked. I tweeted out or asking other fans for questions, and he replied to that tweet and told me to ask you about meeting Kobe and stuff. And
So Kobe, I was more than just a Kobe fan. Like Kobe's my idol. Like growing up,
uh,
like my idol. Behind this computer, I have everything. Like I like Kobe like you like How to Get Away.
period.
I
uh,
I love Kobe. And so I didn't know he was gonna be there. And so I was looking at Asia, like I was like waking up from the coma and like looking at Asia. And Kobe was over here. Like Kobe was like on the other side. So I'm looking at Asia and Asia was acting like this. She was like, and then I saw her face go like this. And so I'm looking at her and she goes, and then I look over at what she's looking at, and it was Kobe, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Kobe Bryant, my idol." I just like
my
said it, like my body just like said it. And so underneath, so let me. This is actually a really good story. So underneath the like hospital. Okay, so all actors, when they call cut, they know you're gonna have like 5 to 10 minutes in between before the next like action, right? So actors, they do one of a few things. If it's an easy scene where there's not a lot of costumes or whatever, they just go back to their seat and they're like, waiting for the first AD to come say, "Hey, we're ready for you again." So you go
night.
back to your seat, you go to crafty, you get some food, you go to the water, you go to the bathroom, whatever. But I was all up in that hospital bed. Like, in order to do it, they would have to like remove the sheets, like let me get out, like put the head thing back on the right way, and all that kind of stuff. And it was just a lot of work because it has to look exactly the same as it did before. That's continuity, right? That there's no extra wrinkles in the sheets or whatever. So what I had under my blankets was like books, phones, snacks. Like I had all kinds of shit like under the blankets that you couldn't see under the camera. So that when they would call cut, I was just comfortable in the bed. So underneath
It's not a bad
the
day.
yeah, not a bad day. So underneath the like hospital blanket, I had Kobe's book that I was reading.
Of course. Oh,
That's what I was reading in between things. So I was like, oh my God. And I like pulled it out from under the thing and Kobe was laughing. So all right. So now in the scene, I'm supposed to be like
uh,
this because I'm like in a coma. And this is when like Michaela's kind of like looking at me. Like you think like is she gonna fucking smush his head with a pillow or something? And so my eyes are like this. But because I knew Kobe was in the building, I didn't really get a chance to meet him or talk to him. I was nervous that he was gonna leave before I got a chance to.
mm-mm.
So I was kind of like, so apparently underneath this, my my eyes were like moving underneath the like eyelids.
Uh-huh.
And with the close-ups of the camera, I forgot who was directing that day, but Daniel was on set. And the director was like, Behzad, we can see your eyes moving. And I was like, how? My eyes are closed. But I was so like that my eyes were asleep. So the director was like, Behzad, do you need 5 minutes? I was like, I do need
Yeah,
5 minutes.
6 minutes,
And so,
7.
so I got up and I just like had a chat with Kobe and got to take a picture and shake his hand and have a nice conversation with him. We talked just like me and him for like 10 minutes. It was
Oh,
awesome. And then I went back and then I was able to do it. So yeah, it was a great day. It was a day I'll never forget. For
here,
sure.
that I'm gonna rewatch all these, or I watch these scenes, but look for those
Yeah.
eyes moving. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. I was literally like,
like, cut, y'all cut her. It's like a sped up scene, like just like not, yeah, that'd be funny.
yeah.
And then I was kind of wondering, did you take anything from set or from Simon's apartment or any the blood splatter pool, maybe
You know,
fruit roll up?
here's, here's what's really hard. Here's what's really hard. I think a lot of non-actors don't realize this, but like we don't know when we're done.
Hmm,
Like,
true. Yeah.
like so I didn't know I was like the last day, I didn't know that was my last day. I didn't know if they were gonna have me do more. I didn't know if I was gonna come back alive. Maybe Viola stops it. Maybe I was gonna come back in the final episode. Maybe I was gonna come back in the final season. Like
True. Yeah.
they
Just
could do anything. I just didn't know. But there was a prop master. The prop master, the person who deals with all the props on set. And I think he knew or had an inclination. And I don't know if he knew or not, but he actually took the what is it called? You know, on like your actor chair with your name on it.
oh, the back of the chair, like the sort of
Yeah, he took the back of the chair and
uh,
he folded it up and gave it to me.
uh
And when he did that, I was like really touched because he didn't need to do that, and that was really kind of him to do. But it also was like, damn, I think I'm done.
yeah, that's good.
I got it. Like I think I'm because remember, if you're not a regular, you're getting paid per episode, and it's not just about the money, like the work. Like
Yeah.
it's a per episode thing. So when I was done, I was like, damn, like I think I might be done. They might not call me back. And then that was the last time I got the call. Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought they could have, like, that would have been, they could have brought, that would have been a good surprise for the final season, like have Simon come back or like in the court, like
Even if
for
I was in the even if I was in the funeral, like in the church, I would have loved that. Yeah.
did you
Yeah.
keep up with the show after like the final 2 seasons or after
I did
Simon?
not. I did
Uh,
not. I did not. It's tough, when
yeah, it's
you
yeah, different from
it's tough because I really wanted to be back, you
uh,
know? And as an actor, it's hard not to like have like an emotional like take it personally. So in a weird way, I guess I could describe it as like continuing to watching the show was like watching a video of your ex-girlfriend dating a new person. You know what I mean?
new
It's
students
hard.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that new student was Roland Flynn,
True.
and Amira Van stayed on and Rome was there and they're wonderful people, both of them. But it's just it's hard to like watch and like wish you were on there and know you don't have a job and so you have to like find a new acting gig and like all that kind of stuff. So it's tough. So I didn't watch, but I did watch the finale though.
The fun. Oh God. Ugh.
Watch,
It was sad.
yeah. Oh my God, when Viola was holding Liza
Shaking
on
her.
the
Oh my. How do you do
it's
that?
like
Like, like acting wise, how do you get to that? Like, oh Lordy, I don't watch that episode a
for
lot.
most acting things I can tell you how people do it, but whenever it comes to Viola, I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
Mm-mm.
I don't know how you do it.
I'm so excited for her new movie, The Woman King.
The
Yeah.
trailer looks amazing and like the way she got her body in shape and
Yeah, they just released like a little featurette of them training, and I was like, okay,
I
I'm
saw
gonna
it. Yeah.
watch this on the treadmill later.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang. Any
Exactly.
any like any big takeaways or something you've really learned from that you've like kept with you like from the show?
So much, so much. I learned a lot from watching Viola and Liza and yeah, a lot actually. Like Viola is always dropping gems. She's always dropping gems. She's always, but one of my favorite Viola stories is we were chatting once and She said, I'm going to tell you the two most important things
Oh shit.
that you got to. And I said, okay. And, I'm like, Viola Davis is going to tell me the two most important things. Like, give it to me. I'll drop everything. I'll take it, Because even though, like, you're working with her every day and you see her every day and like, you're like, okay, she's another person like the rest of us. It still doesn't feel that way. It still feels like, oh my God, that's like
Right.
the queen, Viola Davis. Even after like 2 years, even like season 4, 10th episode, I've done 20 episodes, I'm still like, that's Viola Davis. Like, that's Viola Davis. So she's like, I'm gonna tell you the two most important things. I said, okay. She said, one, do the best you can. She said, all you can do is the best you can. Because if you've done the best that you can, there's literally nothing else you can do. All you can do is the best you can. So I was like, wow, that's great. And
Sounds
then
right.
we got and then we got called to set and we come back and I'm like, Viola, you said that you were gonna tell me two
Two.
things. You told me
Uh-huh.
one. What's the second thing? And she goes, and then she goes, I forget.
What? Well,
And I was like, ah.
no, I can't. So close.
But I got the one, and that's all that matters.
That's,
Oh, wait. There's the punchline to that story, though. I said, Viola, what? I said, you told me it was two things and you only gave me one. I was like, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be wondering what was the second thing Viola Davis was going to
yeah.
tell me.
I
She
was.
looked at me and she looked at me and she goes, well, I'm doing the best I can.
Oh my. I can like hear her say that. Oh my god.
Yeah. She said, I'm doing the best I can.
That's a great. Oh my god. Great
Yeah.
story. Oh man. Well, I think that's all I have for you or the time.
Great.
I really appreciate you coming on and it means a lot to me, like being a part of my favorite show and getting to talk to you and all these good secrets and for giving me your time. And yeah, it was really awesome.
Of course, I mean, on stage, which is where I trained and where I learned, we always talk about if there's no audience, we're doing this play for nobody. We're just a bunch of crazy people on a stage saying lines to the dark.
To the
It's
darkness.
just rehearsal. And then it's just rehearsal. And so on stage, that audience is so important. And I think what happens is because with camera, with television shows and movies, you don't have the audience in front of you often. So
Yeah.
sometimes it gets forgotten. It's like, well, we're doing all this and the audience doesn't see it for weeks later. But honestly, I always try to remember is like, you're doing this for the audience. The audience is a 50% part of this exchange, of this interaction, of this transaction. We need the audience. And even with camera, we need the audience. So thank you for being the best. We appreciate it.
We ate it up on Twitter every week. We were there. I miss it.
I have a question for you. What were you
Okay.
like when you what were you like when you found out it wasn't coming back?
Um, I was kind of shocked at first, but then like I'm glad it didn't get like any like some TV shows don't get to wrap up or like give a goodbye to the audience.
Oh,
So,
yeah, you were happy that they knew so that they could wrap it rather than
yeah,
like ending on a cliffhanger and we don't ever see it come back. Yeah.
because these cliffhangers, I couldn't, I wouldn't be, I would be outside ABC like with my
Yeah.
trophy back.
What happened? What happened?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like sad it's over, but I'm glad it got like it ended on maybe Pete's terms or like
Yeah,
like
for
like
sure.
talk to him about it like because a lot of shows like they just like Heroes was like my favorite show back in the day. I don't know if you ever watched Heroes, but they kind of butchered it or like it didn't get a good ending. So
Yeah. Have you gotten a chance to talk to Pete?
no, no, no. I try to mess. It's hard to get.
It's hard. Yeah.
I've had a lot of yeses, but then I've like never heard back from like they've never gotten back to me yet. But I'm
But you got Conrad and you got Amira and
Amira's
those
great.
that's big.
All right.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm hoping
So
for if Liza ever comes back to social media, like
yeah,
to get Liza, but she hasn't been on anything since it ended.
yeah.
So I don't know, like a carrier pigeon, maybe. I don't know, like no,
Well,
but
thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank
That was
you.
awesome talking to you. Yeah.
You too.